So I wanted to take up, certain aspects of the interaction, between Moshe and Paro, which we started talking about last week. And a very interesting development that takes place, basically at the end, towards the end of the whole thing, right before Makas Bechoros. Okay, so as we get towards the end, the Makos increase. They start off being very mild, relatively mild. Okay, but as Paro becomes stubborn, so they become much more invasive and more painful, involving a loss of life. For example, the Arov, the mixed animals, all the wild animals, they just come, break loose and they attack all the houses and all the cattle and people too. So that was, and then, see, that's one fact, that the Makos start to get stronger. Also, there's clearly differentiation between the Egyptians and the Jews. That becomes more evident in the case of the Arov. No Jew was affected. In fact, it's a machlokas. It's a machlokas. I'm just gonna mention it now. You can look into it on your own. Is it true that in all the Makos, all the 10 Makos, the Jews were spared and it only affected the Egyptians? Okay. If you read the Psukim, however, it mentions that in specific Makos. It mentions by the Arov, it mentions by the Barad, okay, by the Dever. In those cases, it mentions specifically that the Jews were spared, and Paro sent his messengers, and they reported back.
What about the plague of darkness, though?
The plague of darkness? No. All for the Bnei Yisrael was light. They had light. I didn't go through the entire list, but I'm just saying. So the Even Ezra says, if the Torah mentions it in those cases, so you have to assume it's just where the Torah mentions it. In the plagues where, according to the Even Ezra, in the plagues where it doesn't mention that the Jews were spared, so you have to assume that it affected the Jews as well. That's the view of the Even Ezra, but the Ramban, the Rambam, and others believe that in all cases, the Torah is mentioning it in these cases for various reasons, but in all cases, you have to, according to them, I think that's the majority view, you have to assume that the Jews were spared.
Well, in the first of the Makos of the blood in the water, the Egyptians went to the Jews to buy water from them. So
that's a midrash. That's right. And then you have to, according to that midrash, it didn't affect the Jews.
Right.
Okay, but according to the Even Ezra, it did affect the Jews. He didn't hold from that. Midrash is a different story. Not everybody holds from every midrash. Okay, so that we have to go. We have to go by the psukim. That's what the Even Ezra says. We have to go by the psukim.
But didn't 80% of the Jews die in the plague of darkness?
And plague of darkness. That's a midrash. Okay, it's a midrash. I don't think that midrash. We're not interested in statistics exactly. It's a statement. A lot of Jews died during that time because they were not worthy of being taken out of Egypt. So Hashem didn't want the Egyptians to think that they were afflicted also, right? So that was under cover of darkness. Again, this is very, very important. If you're studying Chumash seriously, you have to learn how to take a midrash. Okay, not every midrash is meant to be taken literally. And also you have to weave the midrash into the pshat. What's it teaching us? When I take up a midrash of Chazal, my interest is, what is it teaching us? What do they want to say? It contains their interpretation. Anyways, let's go to, this is my way of beginning. As the plagues get stronger, okay, so things sort of heat up between Moshe and Paro. It's very, very interesting. Let's pick it up. I think we'll pick it up from the Choshech. Makas Choshech. See, Makas Choshech was very, very severe. I don't know if the Egyptians died from it, but the terror, can you imagine? People couldn't move. There was a complete breakdown in terms of communication. Okay, the social aspect. Each person was sort of locked into his own place. Couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't light a match, didn't help.
Corona?
All right. No, you're right. Corona. there are some plagues, like the shrin, the boils, and the lice, right? I thought of corona, something like the lice, something very, very small. Doesn't seem like a big deal. Can knock you out, can knock you for a loop. Here too, a virus, whatever it is, can be extremely destructive. Okay? Now, so what did Paro do? So for three days, according to Rashi, it's 6 days. For 3 days, for the duration of the Choshech, he can't even go to Moshe. That's how bad it is. So that's a devastating kind of a blow. We may not think about it because imagine we take communication for granted today. Everybody's always on it. You can't go 5 seconds without checking your emails, your mails, your texts, right? It's like you got to be in constant. If a person's internet is down, he's like, but that's, you can imagine, you see, the inability to communicate and to such an extent is a devastating thing. Okay? We haven't experienced anything like that. We can communicate. Okay? Especially today, it's an amazing thing. Because today, this morning, we closed. I told you I went back to Phoenix and I sold my house. Okay? So the closing was this morning. But we weren't there in person. They do it by having these docs and this. Well, thank you very much. Docs and the whole, and they had 2 witnesses, and you sort of sign. And today you can do everything electronically. So, and the whole thing didn't take long. I was surprised. I thought it was going to be a whole ASIC, but once I got the thing set up, I had my iPad, my wife had her computer, and we signed. We signed on the dotted line, whatever. So that's an amazing thing, see? But it also shows you how dependent you are. Okay, if the system gets knocked off, the internet or whatever, it's a problem. Anyways, so Paro calls to Moshe. After, he can't even get to him during the Choshech, that's what I was saying. But after the Choshech, he calls to Moshe. It had an effect upon him. And he says, go and serve God. But, you see, but, there's always a but. Whenever Paro agrees, it's always aval. There's always an aval, a but. But leave your animals behind. You don't have to take all your animals. Why do you have to take all your animals for? Okay, so there's a very interesting dialogue over here. He says, Rak tzonchem u'karchem yutzad. But your sheep and your cattle, let them remain here. Why does he say that? Because he's suspicious. He's suspicious that they're not just going to go and serve God and come back, but they're going to run away. Gam tavchem yelech imachem. Finally, now he's agreeing that he can take the children, because originally he said he can't take the children. What do you want to take the children for? Now he's giving in with the children, but you got to leave the animals behind. Now listen carefully. Moshe said, Gam ato titein biyodenu zvachim v'olos. You too will put in our hands sacrifices, olos, burnt offerings. V'yosinu l'Hashem Elokeinu, and we'll bring them to the Lord our God. This is a very difficult passage, because the plain pshat, plain meaning is that Moshe is saying that you're going to give us sacrifices. However, if you read the story later on, it doesn't say that Paro gave him anything. When they left Egypt, it doesn't mention. It mentions v'chamushim. They left with weapons, but it doesn't say they took. So all the Mefarshim have a problem with this. Just hold on to this for a second. It's a very interesting idea. And also our livestock will go with us. Lo si shoyer parsa. We're not going to leave behind the hoof. Every single animal is going to come with us. Kimimenu nikach, because from them we have to take la'avodas Hashem Elokeinu, to worship the Lord our God. We don't know manavodas Hashem, how we're going to worship God. Ad boeinu shama. Okay, so Moshe gives an argument to Paro. Paro's position, we have to try and understand what Moshe said. Paro's position was not that you can't take any animals, because that would be ridiculous, like going to serve God. His position was, you don't have to take all of them. The Jews must have had thousands and thousands of sheep and cattle and whatever, and take what you need and leave the rest behind. Why do you have to take everything? That was Paro's argument. And at first glance, it seems to be a logical argument. What's Moshe's argument? He's saying, we don't know what we're going to need when it can't leave behind. What do you mean? You don't know what you're going to need, so take a lot. But you mean to tell me you have to take every single animal? What's the logic behind, at this stage, it appears that Paro is making sense, and Paro is giving a rational argument. Moshe would have to say something that makes sense. He can't just say something that doesn't make sense. What's the thing? There's a very deep idea over here. Yes, Yaakov Meir, right? Pretty good, huh?
Good memory.
Well, I used to have a good memory. Used to when I used to teach clay. When I taught in high schools and yeshiva. Mamish, the first day to have 25 kids. Within like a day, I knew every kid's name. It's important to know the name of the kid, because there's a direct communication. But that ability I don't have anymore today. No way. No way. That's why I say, Ishai, please wear a tag with your name on it. But your name I remember, because you made an impression last week, so I remember your name. Go ahead.
Rabbi Sprecher taught us that when you have an adversary in war, you must crush him.
I agree with that, especially Israel, when they have adversaries.
David Pipes is saying the same thing.
Who?
David Pipes.
Pipes? Daniel Pipes.
Yes.
Yeah, he's from Long Island. I know Daniel.
It's the same thing, you have to crush them.
Okay, but not in today's war. Today's world, you can't crush them. You have to leave them over your own weapons, like the United States left for the who was it, the Taliban or whatever it is in Afghanistan. Go ahead.
No, so that's why, and even more so, you can even lie to them when you say 3 days. If you are at war, you can even lie.
Okay.
A la guerre comme a la guerre.
Okay, but again, so what does crushing have to do with Moshe saying? You mean he's having a lie? That would take, we have to take all our animals?
No, you must go under our conditions, not your conditions.
Okay, but he's not giving any reason why it has to be that way. Just saying, too bad. According to Moshe, he's just saying, too bad, we're going to take all our animals. He's not giving a reasonable explanation. He's not giving a reasonable explanation. Okay, I want to share with you a pshat that I heard. I think I mentioned Rabbi Chait. I mentioned his name here in the past. Okay, he's a big Talmud Chacham. And actually, we started the yeshiva in Far Rockaway 50 years ago, Yeshiva B'nai Torah. I was the menahel for many, many years, Rabbi Chait, the Rosh Yeshiva. So he's a big Talmud Chacham, and I've learned a lot from him. So if I say over, I'll say over some of my own ideas, but I'll also say over other people's ideas. When you say over somebody else's ideas, you're supposed to give credit, right? Kol ha'omer davar b'shem omro is mevi ge'ula la'olam. That's a very important thing. Okay, you gotta be aware of that. And that when you're saying over somebody else's idea, you gotta mention who it is. Okay? And that brings redemption to the world. So it must be a very, very significant point. Here's the pshat that he said. I'm giving it over in my own way of understanding it, though. Okay? Because it's many, many years ago. But I remember. See, I have a good memory. I have a good memory for a good pshat. If somebody tells me a good idea, really, it makes an impression on me, I'll remember that idea. Because I review it, I say it over. I'll remember where we were standing, all the circumstances surrounding it. Okay? So here's the idea. Listen very carefully. There's a very big teaching over here. It wasn't just that Moshe is saying that, no, too bad. That's what we're going to do. No, that's not. That's not. But got to read between the lines. He's communicating a very deep idea. Because Paro was saying, which seems reasonable, take a lot, whatever it is, but you can't tell me that you need to take every single animal. Why can't you make an estimate? Make an estimate of what you're going to need. Moshe is saying to Paro, not in so many words, you can do that. You can do that because you worship idols. What's the idea of an idol? It's something you create. It's a figment of your imagination. There's no reality to the idol. You see, there's no deity out there. It's something you've created and you project all kinds of, in other words, in your image. So you imagine that it's going to get angry with you and you have to pacify it and you have to bring sacrifice. In your imagination. So you, since that is the premise of your worship, which is Avodah Zarah, so you can make an estimate. You see? Just like people can estimate how much are we going to need. Yeah, so you're just projecting that onto the idol. But that's not our religion. We worship the creator of the universe. And the creator of the universe, by definition, is unknowable. We can't know anything. We can't define him. Okay? We can't define him. Okay? Hareini no'as kvodecha. Moshe pleaded with God to show me your glory. In other words, give me a direct understanding of your nature. He wanted to understand what God is. As the Rambam says, we can only say what God is not. We can say what God is not. Okay? God is not subject to change. God is not subject to death, and so on and so forth. God is not subject to emotion. God doesn't rule the world with emotion. It's pure wisdom. Okay? But we can't say what God is. No one has a positive concept of what. Because why? Because we're too limited. So what did God answer Moshe? Kilo yarani ha'adam v'chai. A person can't see me as long as he's alive. See over here means understand. No. The term seeing is knowing, which means to say, as long as we're in the human form, as long as we're connected to the physical, we can't reach that degree of abstraction that we could grasp the nature of God. Implication is, however, when you've died, but death is not death of the soul. When the soul is separated from the body, then the soul will be able to reach, in other words, in Olam Haba, in the world to come, you'll have access, for those people who are in the world to come, you'll have access to understandings that you lack in this world. So don't think, we can't understand it. We have all kinds of problems. We can't understand this. We don't understand why God does that. We don't understand. Yeah, you're right, we don't understand. We don't understand. We have a glimpse, a little bit, but we're limited. A person has to realize when he contemplates things like that there are things that are beyond his capacity to understand. Don't push yourself. That's why you get bad theology. You get bad theology because people, so-called theologians, are trying to answer things that they don't really understand. Sorry, I have to say, you have rabbis like that too. You have rabbis. A person has to know his limits, especially in this area. And he has to know what is beyond his capacity and just say, I don't know. I don't understand. Maybe God will reveal it to me someday. But you have to learn how to live with a certain amount of doubt and a certain amount of uncertainty. Because we're limited creatures. We should be thankful that God gave us an neshama. God gave us a seichel. We should use the seichel, not waste it, develop it, train it to be that's the most important thing you have, by the way. And people don't appreciate it. People are more concerned about possessions, this and that, than they are of their own mind. Okay? It doesn't bother them if they say things that are totally irrational. That doesn't bother them. An appreciation of chachma, an appreciation of wisdom is fundamental in terms of the perfection of being a Jew. It's a very, very significant thing. Very significant thing. Anyways, so that was Moshe's point. We can't make a decision as to how many animals we're going to need. To even try to do so would be sheer chutzpah. Because we're saying we know what God is going to want from us. How can we say anything like that? Our God is unknowable. Okay? That's what he's saying. We have to take all of the animals along because we won't know until God tells us. When God tells us, maybe he'll want everyone. Maybe we'll have to sacrifice everyone.
Is there a certain amount of sacrifices that's...
Yeah, that's true. But that's after the Torah was given. After the Torah was given and the sacrificial system was established. So you're right. There's number 7 of these. There's not. True. But this is before Matan Torah. This is before Sinai. So this was a special type of a festival unto HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So there was no precedent. There's no precedent. How do we know? Oh, so you mean I'm going to guess? Then you're second guessing Hashem. That's what Moshe was telling him. You can do that because you don't have a real God.
Thousands of cattle. They had thousands.
That's why they need every. So maybe God will say to sacrifice everyone. Maybe that's the mitzvah. You have to be able to part with all of your animals. We don't know is his answer. And for us to even try to make an estimate would be sheer chutzpah. That's the idea that. So Moshe is making with power. He's making a theological argument, which is very, very important. You see, you can detect in this that Moshe is not just threatening Paro to let the Jews go. He's trying to communicate ideas that Paro himself should recognize Hashem. That is a major goal of the entire thing. V'yadu Mitzrayim kini Hashem. Mitzrayim will know that I am God. That was one of the objectives. And we'll soon see what happens over here. Okay?
I think he's trying to, I think there's many reasons why he says all this. He's speaking to him in like what you just said, but also I think he's subtly saying to him, we're not coming back. We're taking everything. We're going.
Well,
And that's what Pharaoh saw.
well, that's what Pharaoh was
He knew
afraid
that's
of.
what he-
That's what
he
Pharaoh
knew.
was afraid of. Moshe didn't say one way or the other on that. That's not direct. Moshe just said,
When you
well,
say you're taking all the animals, he worships idols. He can't think about, oh, you're going to kill every animal? No, come on. He's not thinking like that. He's
Okay.
thinking like an idol worshiper.
okay,
This guy's leaving. He's
Right.
leaving.
Okay.
And with that, we see that. We see that's how Pharaoh reacts. And logically so. What do you mean you want to take your animals? You're going, aren't you?
Okay, so
and we
Pharaoh-
saw it in stars anyway.
maybe a good point. Maybe, but
We see you're going to see the blood.
Paro, maybe you're right. Maybe he wasn't ready to accept that. He wasn't
I
ready
heard a
to.
rabbi say that he had to say it to him like this so he could subtly, so he could handle it. He couldn't just blatantly say it to him. He wasn't in a place to be able to handle something like that.
Okay, but still in all, it wasn't just being stubborn. He was trying to communicate a point. What Moshe was trying to
That's what I'm
communicate a
saying.
point.
There's many levels of understanding to this.
And then it says, "Vayichazek Hashem mislei Paro v'lo l'shalchem." Paro did not give in. Okay, but something happens over here. I want you to pick up on this. Vayomolo Paro. Paro said to Moshe, "Lech me'olai." Get out of here. Leave me alone. Hishama lecha. Be careful. Al tosef ra'os panai. Do not see my face anymore. Ki b'yom ra'oscha panai tamus. On the day that you see my face, you will die. Whoo, whoo. Vayomer Moshe Ken dibarta. Moshe said, okay, fine. You spoke the truth, spoke well. Lo osefod ra'os panecha. I'm not going to see your face anymore.
But
What?
that's it.
Well, okay, we'll take that up. You're good. But the question is like this. What ticked him off all of a sudden? Well, that's one of the most amazing things in the story, is Moshe had the freedom to come and go from the palace, and Paro, at no point Paro threatens him. In fact, the ministers of Paro seem to have a certain awe for Moshe. Moshe comes and goes, and Moshe either had the disagreements, blah, blah, blah. And why all of a sudden does he get angry and he threatens to kill him? Why? What happened? What took place in the last exchange? What took place that would cause Paro to suddenly get angry? That's my question.
He understood.
Understood what? No, he's not leaving. He didn't give him permission to leave.
Huh?
He did not give him permission to leave. Paro said, no, he's not going to leave him go. But he's not going to talk. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. You mean, okay, so you guys are saying, I hear what you guys are saying. You guys are saying, up until now, Paro didn't think that Moshe was leaving. Right? They're just going to worship God. In fact, his first offer was in the land. His first offer, when he starts to soften up, was go and worship God you don't have to leave the country. Right? And Moshe said, we can't do that because that would be an abomination. Okay? It would be an abomination because they worship these sheep, and if we slaughter, they'll kill us. So we have to leave. All right? So then, Derech Shlosh Yom, a 3-day journey. But, so you're saying that at that point, Paro believed that they're just going to go worship and they're going to come back. That's what you're saying. However, at this point, you're saying he suddenly saw that that's a ruse. Right? And since he saw it was a ruse, so then he's not going to deal with him anymore. Because I'm not going to let you go if you're not coming back. He was about to become very generous and give them a little furlough from work, okay, for a 3-day journey, and then whatever, about a week off from work. That's already very generous. But to let you guys go and not come back, that's what you guys are saying. Okay, Yafa Amarta, you spoke very well. Okay, give these guys an extra credit. Okay, on your report cards. I'm going to try and incorporate that. Okay, meanwhile, you can have an extra cookie.
A week off without pay.
Vacation without pay. But I think that there's another way you can. I mean, it doesn't mean that one is right and one is wrong.
There's many levels.
There's many
What
levels.
you're saying is right.
I want to introduce another level over here. See, because you can sense, I think you guys saw it, you can sense a certain theological battle going on. right? There's a theological battle. And let's go back to that pasuk. That pasuk that was very, very difficult for us. When Moshe says to Paro, you too will give place sacrifices in our hands, and we'll bring them to the Lord our God. That's very, very strange, as I said, because later on you don't see that it happened. They didn't do that. So what did he mean by that? What did he mean by that? So there's the pshat of the Even Ezra. The Even Ezra says that this is the way the pasuk should be read. Gam ata, you too are obligated. You should give. You're supposed to give. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to, not that you will, but the words can fit into that interpretation as well. Okay, that. Oh, give me a second. Yeah, you too, not just us. It's not just us that have to bring sacrifices, but you too, Paro, have to bring sacrifices, and you should be giving it to us, and we'll bring it. We'll bring it for you. We'll bring it for you. Okay. In my opinion, that's what caused the anger. How did this bring about that anger? See, because there's a change over here. Because until now, what was Moshe? What was his argument? Moshe's argument was that there's such a, I guess we would put it in our terms, there's such a thing as freedom of religion. We have to, our God has called upon us, and he demands that we have a festival unto him and bring sacrifices. And if we don't, we could get punished. God could punish us. We have to do that. Okay, so that's what it's a legitimate request. Okay? You have your religion, they have their religion. We should have a right to practice our religion. All right? That seems to be the position. And Paro, up to a certain point, okay, fine. But what's he saying over here? What's he saying over here? Now Moshe is we're imposing our religion on you. It's not just us that has to serve. Our God is the universal God. There is no other God. He's taking it one step further. You see, in my opinion, Judaism does not recognize the validity of any religion. Don't tell other people I said it, but they make it upset. Judaism does not recognize the validity of any religion. Not Christianity for sure, not Islam, not whatever. All the other religions, the Eastern religions, in my opinion, if you go through the Rambam, we don't tell a Gentile. If a Gentile comes to me, I've had Gentiles come to me over the years. I've given classes to Gentiles, etc., who are not satisfied with Christianity. If they want religious guidance, I will not tell them to go become a good Christian. First of all, according to the Rambam, Christianity is avodah zarah. Anyways, okay, there may be other opinions, but according to the Rambam, which is a very serious opinion, Islam is not avodah zarah, but it's not the true religion, and their prophets are not true prophets. You see, I would tell that person, what does Judaism have to offer for a guy? I'll use that. I don't mean it disparagingly. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And the Rebbe tried to make a big thing out of that. He had the Congress of the United States to recognize officially that this is the universal religion, something like that. I forget the exact terminology. There were groups of Noachites, which I went to, and I gave classes and so on and so forth. These are people that have rejected. They were Baptists, Southern Baptists and whatever, religious Christians, and they had all kinds of questions and all kinds of difficulties, etc. And they kept searching and searching till they found the Torah. The Torah. They believe in the Torah. That doesn't mean that every person who believes in the Torah is going to be Jewish, is going to convert. He doesn't have to. I would tell a Gentile, and I have told them, you don't have to convert. A Jew has to be a Jew. We don't have choice because we were at Sinai. Okay? So we were at Sinai, we accepted the Torah. And our children. That's it. You can't lose your Jewishness. You can't give it up. There's no way you can renounce your Jewishness. You're always a Jew. Okay? But you're a guy. You're not a Jew. You don't have to.
Keep your 7 and go to heaven.
Yeah, keep the 7. And it's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal. Okay? It gives you, but they're the fundamentals. The fundamentals of belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Avodah zarah is strictly prohibited.
Their soul can't handle 613.
Okay, whatever you want to say.
It gets to be.
Well, they convert. There are those who convert.
No, but then that's different.
Well, I mean, the guy was a guy. Whatever.
souls are been from past lives, we're Jews that come back to this.
All right, I mean, I'm not. We don't have to get into that. However you want to believe that. That's fine. That's fine.
I've just heard different rabbis talk about that. Rabbi, one of the first ones that told me that.
I'm not saying that rabbis don't. But you have to differentiate between an opinion and between something which is clear, which there's no question about. So as I said, even with Midrashim, there's a lot of opinions out there. Okay. I don't know if the Rambam accepted that notion that it's souls from past lives. I don't think he accepted it. Okay, I just want you to know that you want to accept it. You can accept it. I'm not disparaging it. Anyways.
I think there's truth in everywhere.
Fine. Anyways, what I'm trying to say over here is that, you see, I want to get back to that point, that I would not tell a Gentile that it's valid. You can be a good Christian. I would not tell him that. Not allowed to tell him that. And I wouldn't tell a Muslim. Of course, I'm not going to go out and start making a thing for no reason, get into a fight. I wouldn't do that. But if an individual asked me sincerely, I wouldn't tell him to be a good Muslim. That's not the true religion. The true religion is Torah's Moshe, the Torah that Hashem gave to Moshe and the Jewish people, and the Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah, the Torah Shebasav, and the Torah Sheba'al Peh. And we have our legitimate Nevi'im. Very, very clear. It's a very, very serious thing. Who's legitimate Navi, who's not, etc. All the so-called prophets from the other religions, whether it be Islam, whether it be Christianity, they're not legitimate prophets. They would be regarded as false prophets. They're not legitimate prophets. So what right do you have to tell a non-Jew to follow them? No. The Torah has a place for you. The Torah has the 7 Noahide laws. I mean, I know groups of people that get together on Shabbos because they want to honor Shabbos. They're not converts, they're Noahides, and they study Torah. They could study ideas of Torah. There's plenty of Torah they could study. Their own 7 laws they could study, they have to study. And, Tanakh, ideas, the ideas of Torah, the so-called Hashkafa of Torah. Okay,
they can go to heaven with someone, so why do I want all this?
Very good. The Rambam says, by the way, people don't understand, the Rambam says that he calls them a Chasidei Umasa'ol. Chasidei, the pious from the nations of the world. A Noahide that renounces Avodah Zarah. That's a big, big step. And embraces these 7 mitzvahs because he believes the Torah is true. Why does he keep the 7? He keeps the 7 because it's in the Torah, and he believes the Torah is true. And he guards them carefully, etc. He's a tzaddik, and he has a chelik in Olam Haba. It's not just Jews that have a chelik in Olam Haba, right? Not just Jews. See, Jews shouldn't feel superior. I don't think a Jew should feel superior. I mentioned that. We should feel humbled and grateful that Hashem gave us the Torah and the mitzvahs, which can elevate us to a high level, but not because we're better than others. We're not better than others. The Torah way of life is better than other ways of life. The true Torah way of life, by the way, the true Torah way of life, where people are honest and keep the mitzvahs, etc. Okay, not everybody who's from, just because a person is from doesn't mean he's keeping the true Torah way of life. Okay, it's not true. You see, a lot of from people do things.
We accept something and they reject it.
Who?
The Goys. They reject it.
But it's a different.
Not going to go to heaven.
It's a different story. It's a different situation. Again, you're taking a midrash. You're taking a midrash. There's a teaching over there. They weren't primed. Excuse me.
A life fact.
They weren't primed to accept. What about the 80% that rejected the Torah? So you had 80% of the Jews. That's a big majority of the Jews. So if you're going to put them down for rejecting, and don't forget, we have a different background. We have the Avos. We descend from Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And we had the experience of the slavery, and we had the Exodus, and still, Kaf Aleim, God had to turn the mountain over them. They need a little pressure. So I'm just saying, we shouldn't feel.
Consequences.
We shouldn't
Choices
feel.
Create consequences.
What's that?
Choices create consequences.
I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. The concept. One second. What is superior? What is superior is the Torah way of life.
Of course.
Okay? So you have plenty of Jews that don't live according to the Torah way of life. In my opinion, they're not superior. They're not superior. Okay? Jews that abandon the Torah, then you can't tell them apart. You have assimilation.
The way of life of the Jews is not necessarily the same way of life of a goy.
What kind of Jew? Jew that keeps the Torah?
Yes.
Keeps the Torah. Oh, sure. I agree.
If we take abortion, a necessary abortion, to a goy, it's forbidden. To a Jew, it's permissible. I mean, in special cases.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I think there is somewhere written that there was a guy, a doctor, who had to perform an abortion to save the girl.
To save the mother.
Yes.
Okay.
And the rabbi said, you don't do it. You are not allowed to do it. I can do it.
Right, I heard that.
I don't understand. He can do what?
The Jew,
Can do the abortion?
yeah,
Right.
Why?
the doctor Jew is allowed by law, but by our law,
By Torah.
yes.
How is he
Why?
allowed to?
By Torah, the guy is not allowed to make.
Oh, he's allowed to do it because he's saving the mother's life. Oh.
Yes.
Okay, you're saying what it is. The doctor said I could do it because I'm saving the mother's life.
Yes,
But why can't the guy do it?
because by law, by Jewish law, it's not allowed to them.
But the Noahide laws, it's not allowed.
It's not allowed even to save the mother's
By
life.
our law,
Yeah,
For him, it's-
I would study the
That
same
makes,
thing you're talking
okay, I
about.
got that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, but there's the whole system
but
of
this
Noah.
means we don't have the same rules, even according to Shiva Mitzvot Ben Enoch.
Yeah, okay, agreed. My point is like this. I'm just saying, I don't think that there's anything innately superior about a Jew. What is superior is a person who keeps the Torah system honestly and faithfully and is a righteous individual. So I would say there are many
They're the
Jews.
only ones that can keep that.
One second.
So
There
that's
are many.
unique.
There are many Jews that don't keep the Torah. Okay, and they're and if you compare a Jew that doesn't keep the Torah at all, he's totally assimilated. Okay, he eats whatever he wants to eat, and he's in favor of abortion, etc., etc., etc. Because the Jews are the biggest liberals. I mean, like in America, you'll see that. As opposed to a Ben Noach and Noachide, who's very serious and very sincere, who's on a higher level. Who's on a higher level? You can tell me he's a Jew just because he's Jewish. That's kind of like a racial superiority kind of thing, which I don't believe in. I would say that it's very possible there are many Jews that go away from Torah completely, and then they're imperfected, as opposed to Goyim, and by Goyim I mean the righteous, like the Rambam calls a righteous guy. He's a guy who keeps the seven Noachide laws sincerely and lives a moral life, lives an ethical life. In my opinion, that's a high level. That's all I'm saying.
The Jews are supposed to fix what's broken. So even a Jew that only keeps one mitzvah out in Florida, in Texas, that sits there and does that one mitzvah, he's fixing what's broken, just with his own one mitzvah. The Goy doesn't
What
have
about
that.
seven? He's got seven mitzvahs.
Huh?
He's got
No,
seven
but-
mitzvahs. They're from God, those commandments.
Right, but the Jews are the ones that are that are fixing what was broken.
All right, fine, okay. That's not my point. That's not my point. That's a general statement. Fixing what is broken is a very general kind of statement. It doesn't really, it's nothing concrete there.
When I see Jews, I came from Texas where not many people are from.
Right.
But I saw so many Jews who were lights and maybe kept just a few things. They matzah, they fasted on Yom Kippur, but they drove on Chabad. They still were affecting on the goys. They have a certain presence about them that affects the goys around them.
That's great. I'm not against that. Okay, fine.
So that shows itself. There's something.
But
there.
that's a big leap.
There's a blessing that come down through the forefathers that affects the.
Yeah, but you will see at the same time, you'll also see Jews that have abandoned everything. And it's a joke to them. The whole religion is a big joke.
So-
I'm not blaming them, I'm not blaming them because that's America. I'm going from America. Obviously, I'm from America. And that is the central place of assimilation. And so I'm not blaming these people. That's the way they were raised. They were not. You can't expect people to have complete freedom like they do in America, and the society welcomes them, etc. And the parents do not stop them or educate them at all. They have it's not their fault. Given their upbringing, to them, Judaism looks ridiculous. It looks ridiculous. They're not stupid people, and they look with a certain logic, and none of these practices are appealing to them. Okay. Not, I don't know about the Jews in Texas. You're talking about other, I'm talking about like Jews in New York and so on and so forth. Not only New York, California, and so on and so forth, who they become sort of like the champions of American culture. The Jews are the real leaders, and see, I can see why when anti-Semites,
That's what I'm saying.
it's against the Jew, because they see that the Jew is the one behind abortion, behind all of these really liberal movements, etc. It's generally the Jews. The Jews are the most rebellious, most revolutionary of the various people when they go away from Torah.
What I saw.
There's no stopping them. When they go away from Torah, there's no, because they're smart people and they're leaders and they're, but it's all that energy is not thrown into Torah. All that energy is thrown into the secular culture.
So what?
What?
So what?
No, I'm just trying to say that so what is that? You can't say that a Jew is infinitely superior being, intrinsically.
והנפש השנית בישראל,
What?
הנפש השנית בישראל,
Yeah.
כי נפש מאלוהי ממעל.
Okay.
This comes from Job. And the Rabbi or the Tanya adds mamash, which means there is a difference in itself, even with the Jew that you describe, even with Datan ve'Amiran.
Yeah.
At the end, they are superior.
Okay, I mean, it's a matter of...
I'll give you
I
another
don't know, it
example.
doesn't really matter to me. You can say they're superior. Okay.
In
I don't mind.
Texas, the second highest influx of Jews into America came through Texas, Galveston, Texas. Second highest. There used to be a little steeple in every town almost. Jews everywhere. But what happened? They've been there since the 1800s. They started assimilating. And what I saw was the leaders they became like Christians and boys, most of them. But they were Jews.
Right.
So who are the leaders? These kind of people who were Jews, but now they're accepted like one of the goy. But when you back check, they were Jews.
Okay.
I know many of them like this. So the leaders were the Jews that knew they were Jews and the Jews that didn't know they were Jews.
Okay, so what's the
It's like
point?
you should have
What is the
two
point?
underlying ways to accomplish his goal. A lot of times goys don't want to listen to Jews. They listen to another goy, and they don't even realize he is Jewish too. And the guy who didn't want to listen, maybe he was Jewish.
But when they listen to him, he's now propounding Christianity. He's not propounding Judaism.
No, but there's still a unique difference. There's a spark there.
There
that
is.
affects the people
The Jews in general.
They're stronger.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. In general, Jews are more aggressive, more accomplished, and and so on and so forth. I'm not denying that. To me, that doesn't mean superior.
And you see it in business even. I look
That's
at the
true.
people I do business with. So many Jews, even that they weren't that religious. The biggest business in San Antonio and Texas, most are all Jews.
No, that's true. That
There's
that
a
gets
difference
carried
there.
through the people.
That-
The people. I think like this. You say, I think the Jews generally outperform and more Nobel Prizes and professionals, even the non-religious ones. I'll tell you what I think it comes from. See, our religion, the highest value, okay, the greatest respect and recognition is for Talmud Chacham, study of Torah. Every Jewish household, study of Torah, how much you know, Torah. That value then, even so the Jews value intellectual achievement. The Jews, even those who aren't religious, that they carry with them. My son is going to be a doctor, a lawyer. The idea, see, in other cultures, so let's say the American, like in blacks, okay, so for them, sports, basketball, that's what they value, they look up to the most. If that's what the culture values and looks up to the most, that's what it's going to produce. So, but in Jewish culture, even in the most secular Jews, they've never lost the idea of the mind. We respect the mind. Einstein.
Like what we're saying, it's in their genes.
I'm not saying it's in their genes. I'm saying it's in Torah. The Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. If the Jews had not been, see, according to you, if the Jews had not been given the Torah, so they still would be like, no. If the Jews had not been given the Torah, they'd be like anybody else, in my opinion. Maybe they'd be like, you have the Japanese, you have certain.
No, they'd be like Abraham.
You have certain people. I don't know about that. I don't know. I think you're reading this in. The truth, the story of
Rabbi.
once let me finish more. The story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, Take a look at the Rambam. The Jews had reached what the rabbis call the 49th level of Tumah. They'd lost the idea of Yichud Hashem. They lost the idea of Avraham. Just about. He says, Kamat cut, the Rambam says, just on the verge of losing everything. They would have lost everything. And then they'd be like any of the Avodah Zarah. No, it's not true. Then it says he sent Moshe Rabbeinu to rescue them. The Jews had to be rescued. I think that this is not the way you're looking at it is not a realistic way.
No,
what do you want to say?
When you talk to Mitzrayim, they didn't leave because they knew they had accomplished there were certain things they had to accomplish while they're in Mitzrayim.
I know, but you're just projecting those things. It's not really stemming. Where's that stemming from? Okay, good.
I think you look the thing from a rational point of view.
Exactly.
But there is, you can call it spiritual, mystical, or Hasidic point of view, which is completely different.
That's for sure. I'm looking at it from my approach to Judaism is essentially rooted in the Rambam. And the Rambam and the rationalist philosophers.
But what do you think Rambam means when he says in Moreh Nevuchim, Hamevin Yavin? This is beyond rationality.
No, I don't think that's what he means. There is a branch. He does have what he calls metaphysics.
Yes.
But that's not beyond rationality. It's not irrational. It's not emotional. It's just a higher.
Metaphysics.
It's a more advanced branch of knowledge. Okay. Anyways, you're right. I'm not here to argue with Hasidus. I'm trying to be respectful, but I am. That's a good point that he made. That we could argue all day long. My approach, my foundation, it's rooted in a Rambam approach. That's how I try to make sense out of the Torah. I try to explain it rationally because I believe that everything in the Torah makes sense.
If you only take one approach, don't you think that limits you? Don't you want to look at every approach?
You can look at every approach, but sometimes you can't. I mean, the approaches, because they don't agree on the premises. They contradict each other.
Then I look at another one and another one to see. It's my inability not to understand because they all fit. They only don't fit because I don't understand.
Okay. Well, if you don't understand, how do you know whether it's a valid approach? That's the problem. You can't just say it's a valid approach, but I don't understand. If you're searching for a correct approach, okay, you're going to use your mind. What else are you going to use? Okay, so those that make sense and you could use them, you'll use. Those that don't make any sense, or I don't even understand it, how can you use something which you don't understand?
But
how can you teach smell or colors?
What?
You cannot teach smell or colors.
Okay.
This is something that goes beyond rationality. The color, green, red, blue.
It's different. Yeah, because it's not ideas. Color is not an idea.
Okay, so not everything can be explained by ideas.
I didn't say that it could.
Okay, so there is something beyond rationality.
No, that doesn't mean the same thing. There's other things.
Argasha.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's get back to the topic. I appreciate this.
Where's Mitzrayim? What brought us here? Joseph had one concept, what he thought, and the brothers had a different concept, and what they thought.
Yeah, but they both weren't right. That's the important point. One of them was correct and one of them was incorrect. That's what you need to understand. You can't say everybody's view is correct. His view is correct and his, it doesn't make sense. You have to be able to go up and back and up and back. What did Judge do? Elu ve'elu. True.
No, but
there's a case of Elu ve'elu, but there's also a case where it's not Elu. Not everything is Elu ve'elu. There are certain ideas that are rejected.
Well,
no,
something is halakha.
There's two different ways to look at it. Joseph said, as a Jew, let's be out into the world and let's be a light to the world. These Jews over here say, let's protect our Judaism and stay within ourselves here so we're not affected by the outside world. Both are right, but both are right, but they're used in different ways. There's no wrong.
I'm not saying that. You're right. There are certain, what you're saying is that there's different objectives. One objective is to build a yeshiva and strengthen and so on. The other one is to go kiruf, to go out into the world. They don't contradict each other. Okay? So there's no, obviously that's true. That's a need, and that's a need.
But that's what happened to the brothers. The brothers said, hey, no, everything's in here, and you're doing this. You're not like we are. You're out.
Okay. Anyways. Yashka.
I love that. I think this is wonderful.
Let me continue a little bit.
Iron sharpens iron.
Because not everybody is involved in the. I want to cover a little bit more ground, okay? I try to cover ground, okay? These are, I think they're controversial ideas, and I also want to deal with your questions, but we have to cover some ground here.
Hey, I want to hear what you have to say because you have truth.
I'm trying my best.
Is there anyone here? Yeah, and I like to think about it. It adds. I'm constantly changing how I look at life because of what's coming in, and I'm learning. Last week I thought this, but now this week I'm like.
Okay, I'm trying to give you stuff to think about it. I appreciate that your mind is open and you think about it.
And I appreciate you.
I'll keep my mind open too. Okay.
You give me a different perspective that I enjoy.
Okay, I'm happy about that.
And I love your enthusiasm.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. See, at this age, people are really not, they're not that enthusiastic.
You're a spark. You're alive.
Yeah, I'm still enthusiastic. Toda rabah. Anyways, I have a couple of minutes left. Okay. What happens next? So I tried to explain what causes Paro to get angry.
I need the boss, he said.
Yeah. What causes Paro to get angry at Moshe just at this particular point? So I'm trying to say, because up until now, Moshe wasn't saying that we have the only truth. Okay? He was like, give us a chance, give us a chance to express our truth. You have your religion, we have ours. So Paro could live with that. Okay? He wouldn't get angry. Fine. He would let me see what I could do for you. Okay? However, at this point in time, Moshe changed. He upped the ante. It's not the same premises anymore. Now, see, Moshe is taking, I think, my position. He's saying, no, there's not many truths. There's only one truth, Hashem. That's the only truth. There's not many truths, and I can't live. You, too, will have to recognize that truth. If you're a legitimate king and you're leading a people, you have to recognize the truth and teach that truth to your nation. Even the Egyptians have to worship God. Everybody has to worship God. When Paro heard that, then he was threatened. He was threatened. And one of the Mepharshim says, because now he thought, 1 second, this guy Moshe is propounding his own universal religion. He's going to take over the whole. In other words, if the Egyptian religion is knocked down, if it's defeated, so then Moshe is going to impose his religion, that he's going to want to take over the whole country now. Whether you accept that or not, that I think is what triggered his anger. Lech me'olah, that's it. I've been nice to you, I've let you come in the palace, I'm talking to you, but now that you're challenging my religion and the religion of my country, Lech me'olah, he gets angry at him. And what does Moshe say? Kain dibarta. You've spoken well, I won't see your face anymore. That's very interesting. Why did Moshe say that? Why? Because Moshe wants to. Why does Moshe not want to deal with him? Okay. Why did Moshe say that? You're right. Fine. I won't see your face anymore. In point of fact, that's a question whether Moshe sees him by makas bechoros, by the firstborn, by the plague of the firstborn. That's a question. Okay. Because there are those who say that no, that Paro did not. There are two answers to that. There are those who say that Paro sent his messengers to Moshe on that night, so it wasn't Paro himself. And there are those who say that Moshe meant, I won't return to the palace. I won't return to the palace anymore. Okay? But if Paro went to his house to seek him out, that wasn't the... Gesundheit, right. Okay. But why did Moshe say that? Moshe seems to be terminating. Okay? He had a great opportunity over here, Moshe did. It's a hard thing to even imagine that Moshe, the leader of the Jews, who's arguing with Paro to let the Jews go and serve God, he had such freedom, such access. Okay, which other tyrant would have let him come to the palace at will and make his points? And even
a choice.
Even with the
all
plagues.
the lions and everything got quiet. All the animals he had got quiet. He walked right in.
He knew from the beginning that it would be Makat Bechorot.
Moshe did.
Yes.
So you're saying Moshe knew?
Yes.
Right. I think you're right. I think that, Moshe couldn't back off. If Moshe's point was that you too have to recognize Hashem, and Paro gets angry, oh, you're going to tell me that? I'm not going to. So Moshe had to say, that's it. You're right. If he backs off of that, he's, no, let me stay. Then he's going to lose credibility on that point. Oh, so Moshe backed off that point. Once he made that assertion that that our God is the universal God, there is no other God, and nobody can worship anything else but our God, then fine. If you don't want to see me anymore, that's it. Paro has to know that. I'm not going to talk to you. These are the terms. The terms in which I'll talk to you are these terms. That I represent the Kadosh Baruch Hu. He's the God of the world, and the Yadu Mitzrayim Keni Hashem. Mitzrayim has to know that I'm God. That's the terms that Moshe Rabbeinu set for the entire debate. Yeah, okay.
I don't remember. I studied somewhere that there was a Gilgul of Paro.
Gilgul?
Yeah, but I don't remember who the Gilgul became.
Well, you can think of some people in history.
Gilgal
All right, I'll ask you a question. If there was a Gilgul of Pharaoh, and in history, who would it be?
I'm not referring to Hitler. I'm referring to a Ben Noach.
Ben Noach?
Yes.
Oh.
A decent person.
Nineveh. Nineveh, he became king there, Pharaoh did.
Who?
Nineveh. Nineveh,
Maybe.
the king of Nineveh
Maybe.
was Pharaoh.
Maybe.
Oh, that's brought down? He was a Gilgul of Pharaoh?
Yeah.
Okay. And he got the people to do
what
tshuva.
did he do?
The people to do tshuva.
Everybody gets sackcloth and ashes on.
Yeah. He wasn't a bad guy. I mean, because he listened to the Navi. That's one of the things Yonah was afraid of, that they would make the Jews look bad. They listened and they did tshuva. And what about the Jews? They don't listen to the Navi. You see? That's what he was afraid about. But all right.
Where was Nineveh? Where is it?
I read it once. But I can't.
Iraq.
Iraq.
Iraq. I think Iraq.
Yeah.
Ah,
I think it was
Right. Anyways, gentlemen, thank you very much for the interesting exchanges. Okay. And have a good rest of the week.